Hello and welcome to All for Women's Football. We're on Lower League Lingo. We've not been here before. It's always normally recorded. We've usually done it in a safe space, but today it's coming through to your television screens. We are talking FAWNL and below. We are doing all of these things right now. It's here. And I've been wanting to do this for a very long time. And it's live. Good evening, welcome, lovely to have you here. We are back as normal and we are ready for a lovely little 30, 34, 35, 40 minutes, something like that, of lower league chat. We love to do it. It's great fun. We're very passionate about it. And so therefore, we want to highlight all of the stuff that's going on that doesn't really make the news very much. If you're in the WSL, you've got YouTube. You can watch all your highlights. If you're in the Championship, you've got YouTube. You can watch all your highlights. But if you haven't, that's what we're here. That's what we're here for. We're going to help you out. And the boys are here to help me as they do every week. John, lovely to have you here. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Barry. How are you?
Doing good, thank you. Hello, Justin. Lovely to have you here and live. It's nice. We can get some comments going on this one. This will be a bit interesting. And Gareth, lovely to have you as well. You okay, sir?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. It's been an interesting week in the northern realms. Sounds really dramatic, but in the northern area of the pyramid. So excited to chat about it.
Absolutely. I thought we were going to say the northern hemisphere then, which would have been a very wide range indeed, but thankfully he stopped just short. Right, we are going to share the screen. This is always the fun part of the moment because it makes me wonder if it's going to work, and hopefully it will, and it has. There we go. Love that. So it's a simple enough prospect. We start with tier 3 and we work our way down. And just, I think for my OCD, really, we start at the top of the country and move down as well. I could have changed this many times over the last 4 weeks, but I haven't. Here we are looking at the Northern Premier. So it's very simple. We have each chosen 2 games that we think have caught our eye over the course of the weekend, and we're literally just going to bring them to your attention and see if you think they're just as cool as we did. We are kicking off at the Northern Premier, which is West Bromwich Albion against Sporting Calcer. As you can see there, it's at the Hawthorns, which is quite a thing, and a 4-0 win for West Brom. Now, this could be John, this could be Gareth. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty sure it's John, so I'm going over there.
Yeah, it's definitely me. Yeah, one that took my eye. I think it's always exciting to see a club at its main stadium, and it always makes me think, okay, what kind of games does clubs choose to play at their main stadium? Do they go for a big named club against their club, which will draw in extra money and draw in the attendance, or do they go for a club that they're more likely to win, so fans keep coming back thinking, oh wow, this women's team is fantastic, I want to watch a win next week as well. And I think what West Bromwich Albion have done in the space of 4 weeks is a bit of both. So they've just recently announced that they'll be playing Wolverhampton Wanderers at the Hawthorns next month, so that's like your big game there. You know, it's the biggest Black Country derby that there is, and Calcer on Sunday is a game that they're more likely to win. It certainly wasn't a pushover like that score would probably suggest, but it's a game that the fans would have enjoyed and saw 4 goals. Calcer would have got into this game thinking that it's a game where they could potentially get at least a point. They're not one of the bottom teams of Albion, but they're also not one of the top teams. So we saw last season Albion drop points against the bottom teams. So Calcer would have gone in here hoping for a draw. If Calcer played at their best and Albion slipped up a little bit, then a draw there would was there for the taking. Calcer manager after the game, Andy Mulligan, did say that there was just a little bit slow starting the game. They weren't particularly great at the final pass. And therefore didn't really create too much in front of goal, whereas West Bromwich Albion did. Albion made a couple of changes going into this game. The most notable one was Fran Orthodox, who didn't play. Funnily enough, it's her birthday today, so I'm not too sure if that had any bearing on it. Maybe not, I'm not too sure. But Albion had a great starting 11 and they ended up winning 4-0. First goal came with a run down the right-hand side, ball into the box along the floor, literally about 5 yards out. Said it was a tap-in, so it was a great goal there by Phoebe Warner. Second goal, one-on-one with the keeper. Simran Jamrat just was one-on-one with the keeper, coolly slotted it home, didn't smash it at all, just side-footed it to the goalkeeper's right-hand side. And the third goal was very similar, one-on-one with the keeper, but this time the player just rounded the goalkeeper and just made it look simple. Fourth goal, slightly different, free kick outside the box, left-footed strike from the captain, Hannah George, and it was really good to see. Actually, it was a real good free kick. So that was it, 4-0. That now puts West Bromwich Albion fifth in the league, which is quite high. 3 or 4 games gone, so it's a good position for Albion to be in. A lot better than they were this time last year. And of course, Calcer are bottom of the league with 0 points, -18 goal average. Interesting to see what Albion have got coming up. Rugby Borough, followed by Burnley, followed by a midweek game against Stourbridge. So 3 tough ones there in different ways. So it's going to be exciting to follow those 2 teams in the near future.
I mean, absolutely. The Northern Premier is definitely starting to take shape. And as we can see from the league table, 4 games played in the Northern Premier now out of a total of 22. And Nottingham Forest, the only side in the Northern Premier with the 100% record. Rugby Borough and Burnley did have it, but Rugby lost to Stoke 2-1, which is probably a little bit unexpected there. They dropped a few points. And Burnley lost to Wolves 1-0, giving Wolves the opportunity to jump up into 4th there. And of course, Burnley and Rugby have blinked first. Nottingham Forest currently steaming their way through the Northern Premier. So lots going on there. Stourbridge and Sporting Carls are still the only 2 teams needing to get a point. Halifax, with their draw to Derby, has taken them out of the relegation zone. And Stourbridge, who were just squeaking through on goal difference, no longer are. So there we go. Big news on the Northern Premier. But the next one is the Southern Premier. And that's where I live. Not literally in the Southern Premier, but in the South. And I chose this one. And I chose it, boys, for, I think, a very different reason than some might think. We've spoken about Ipswich before on this channel, and they've been pretty amazing. They're doing incredibly well in the Southern Premier. That's all good. You can see here 5 different goal scorers. Just an unbelievable win here at the Martello Ground. A big attendance as well, 857, which just goes to show that the people of Ipswich are really starting to get into what this team are providing. As you say, 5 different goal scorers: Lucy O'Brien, Maisie Barker, Angela Addison, Sophie Peskett, and Ella Rutherford in injury time. Now, of course, you've got to take into account the red card here. Lois Roach being sent off for Lewis after just 20 minutes, with Hannah Godfrey and Paula Howells also in the book. So you can see that Lewis were at 10 men when the goals started to go in. So it was always going to be a bit trickier for them. But I highlighted this one because Lewis have had a really good rise. They're a big team when it comes to women's football. And I don't mean like they're a big team in the way that Chelsea are a big team or Barcelona are a big team. It's not that sort of thing. They're a big team in terms of the things that they have been trying to do within the women's game. Now, they've had a bit of a rise, really. They started around about 2002, and they've brought themselves up all through the London and South East Women's Regional Football League, all the way up through what was the WPL South, but they were a championship side. Around about 2018, they entered into the championship, which is, of course, the second tier of women's football. And they weren't doing too terrible. You know, they had a 9th finish, an 8th finish. Their best finish of 5th was in 2020, 2021. It was only last season, not last season, 23-24, one before, 22-23, where although they finished 9th, they made it to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, where they faced Manchester United women and were knocked out. Now, everything seemed to be going reasonably well. Of course, another great thing that Lewis do is that they have complete equality. So whatever the men are paid, the women are paid. Everything is equal. And they keep that, whether that be to their positivity or whether it be to their detriment. They've maintained that all the way through. But last season, didn't go well for them, and they finished 11th out of the 12 and got relegated. Now, the reason why I've highlighted this one is because I'm a little bit worried about Lewis. For all of this that they've done, the climb that they've had, it's not looking good for them at the moment. The start to their season really hasn't been the level that you were probably expecting from Lewis. And I shall just pop over to the table so that you can see what I mean, because it illustrates it just that little bit better. There's nobody in this league that's got the 100% record. Ipswich, as you can see, are up there with Exeter City. Their goal difference is all that differentiates between the two of them. But look at the bottom. MK Dons, we've spoken about them at length. They are in serious trouble this season, yet to get a point on the board. But Lewis there, 2 losses, 2 draws. They're really starting to struggle at this point of the season, and it's quite early on. They could turn it around. Lots of things could still happen. But, I mean, to me, boys, this is a little bit of a worry. If you are Lewis right now, to have come down from the Championship, you would not be expecting to free fall through the Southern Premier and go from Tier 2 to Tier 4. And it's how you arrest that. How do you arrest that decline, stop it, and manage to stagnate yourself a little bit so that you can build yourself back up. I don't know if Lewis can do it, but for me, this is a big story now. We've gone from a side that were in the Championship, doing really well. What could happen here? Are they still going to want to maintain that parity if the teams aren't doing well and bringing the income in? What's that going to do to them? Does it mean they're going to have a lesser level of player? But there's so many stories that I think could come out from this particular situation. So hence why I decided to highlight it. But for Ipswich, amazing. A 5-goal win, knocked up that goal difference, really, really big. And we've got 2 teams that haven't lost in terms of Exeter and Ipswich, which is great for them. Other big teams there, hashtag Watford, still on the chase along with Oxford. But I just think, yeah, this is another really good league, one that we can really get our teeth into as the season's going on. But I think we should all be keeping our eye on Lewis, just to keep an eye on how those results get on, because you just never know what might happen next. Right, we are going to the Division 1 North, into the ground up solutions, where 56 hardy souls witnessed 6 goals. So this will be Gareth. Why did you choose Gareth Seska?
And just before I kind of get onto this, just to touch on what you were saying about Lewis coming down, it's been tricky in recent years for the sides relegated from the Championship to take momentum back in August. We've seen London Bees drop down into are they Tier 4 now, Bees. Watford they're there or thereabouts, but they've not been able to kind of get back into the Championship, and now Lewis are kind of down there as well. It's been tricky, and I don't know if I don't know who is likely to come down from the Championship this year. I think it's competitive, but I don't think that if you look at a side in the Championship coming down again next year, I don't see anyone going straight back. I think it's, even with it being easier with both champions going up, I think it's tricky for Championship sides. I think that's a good thing in the long run. Not if they free fall through the divisions, but to not have it where a side can get relegated out of the Championship and just be ultra competitive straight away. I think it's ultimately a good thing, and obviously, we don't want to see teams in free fall, but if Lewis have to come down and take a couple of seasons to rebuild before going back, because the likes of Exeter and Ipswich have built over a few years to make a real push, I think that's a good thing. What I will say, though, moving on to this game,
well, just before you do, we actually did a Championship show, so if there's anybody interested with the Championship starting this weekend, we did it on Monday, so do feel free to go back and watch it. But the general consensus amongst the hardy panels of experts we brought in was that Blackburn might be one of the sides that were coming down. If it was Blackburn, would you see them potentially having the same problem in terms of free fall if it was them?
Maybe not in terms of free fall, because I think in Northern Premier there are sides at the bottom that don't have budgets and are struggling. I think you look at the likes of kind of Stourbridge, Halifax at the moment. They are struggling, and I think that is to do with budget. I think it's to do with the name of the club. I think Blackburn have a lot of history in the game and will be able to utilize that potentially. I know Yeovil have rebranded, which may potentially kind of have sting a bit there, but I think Blackburn will struggle if they come down. I think if you look at the sides in the top 4 teams in that Northern Premier Division, none of them are going to let Blackburn have an easy ride if they do come down. You know, Forest could go up. Any 4 of them really could make a good crack at it at going up, and if they do, then there's 3 other teams that are going to be just as hungry to try and make sure it's them next season. Yeah, it's super interesting, and I think we're in for a good season. What is also good is the start that Cheadle Town Stingers have made to National League life. They lost on the opening day of the season, 1-0 away to Middlesbrough, which piqued my interest at the time because Borough are a great side, and to go that way and only lose 1-0, it said a lot, I think, about what Cheadle do. We've got a lot of experience playing Cheadle from time at FC and at Wythenshawe, and they're a side that are difficult to beat. And I think what we've seen in the last month or so is that they are difficult to beat. Borough scraped a 1-0 win against them, and they're the only side that have beaten them. They've played York, beat York, and maybe you can look at that. It was a 6-0 win that we featured here as well. You could potentially look at that and go, okay, York are a side that will probably be down towards the bottom half of the table. But Durham Sestria are a side that have flirted with promotion over the last few seasons. They're a really strong side. They have the support of the Championship side. Obviously, they are not a second team necessarily. They're a separate entity, but they're still there or thereabouts, playing the same kind of facilities and stuff. And so for Cheadle to welcome them to the ground up Solution Stadium, it is now. Park Road, I think it is still in my head, and beat them comfortably says an awful lot about the start they've made. I think Dylan deserves enormous credit for the start they've made. They've recruited really well. You wouldn't look at this and say, oh, they're the top scorer from last season that scored 22 goals is on their honeymoon. They were, and yet the goals come from elsewhere. And it's good to see. Like I say, in past years, teams that have gone up have struggled, and Cheadle have made a fantastic start. And there was a lot of the National League Managers of the Month for August have been released. And there was some discussion there. I didn't know initially that it was only based on the first 2 games because I was surprised to see Huddersfield were nominated. Now I know that it's only on the first 2 games. They had played 2-1-2 in August. Their form since then has been lost 1, drawn 1. So that's why I was confused. But yeah, I think Dylan deserves enormous credit. The players as well, because they're the ones that have got to go out and get the results. They don't seem to be playing like a promoted side. They don't seem to be playing with any sort of fear, any sort of sense of nerves or of being happy to settle for staying up. They're there to make their stamp on the league, and they're doing it already.
It's very good. I mean, Cheadle Town Stingers, for a start there, I can't work out how they got the name Stingers and have a bull on there. So that's one thing that draws me in. Do you know that?
I can clarify. It was Cheadle Town and Manchester Stingers, and they merged. And then became Cheadle Town Stingers.
Still doesn't explain why there's a bull in Cheadle Town.
That bit I can't tell you.
Okay, right. So if anyone knows that, get yourself in touch. I want to know why there's a bull on your badge. With Durham at the same time, though, as I was searching through to get the badges, I did have to take a moment because the only difference between Durham and Durham Sestria is that big bit at the bottom that says Sestria. The badges themselves are virtually identical. And again, you mentioned about Cheadle Town Stingers. They've got 3 players in the top 10 goal scorers at the moment, which is quite something with that Jessica Gill in there with 5. But nobody has caught up with Katie Hassel of York City, who is absolutely bossing it with 9 goals over there. And we're going to continue in that league with you, Gareth, because you chose both of yours from the same division, and we've got Fylde against Stockport. So why did this one warrant equal attention for you today?
I think it caught my attention because it wasn't necessarily a result that I had expected, waiting for the weekend to start. It To start the weekend, I assumed that Stockport would go there and that they would get some kind of result. Fylde were without a win. They were towards the bottom end of the table, and Stockport are an established side at this level. You know, they'd recruited well. They'd allowed some players to leave and things as well. So I just didn't expect the way that Fylde would get their first win of the season was a comfortable win that didn't really allow Stockport into the game at all. I think, discussing those sides that get relegated and then potentially free fall, there was a sense of maybe Fylde would struggle and weren't going to be there or thereabouts coming into the season. We now see a league where Huddersfield Town as a relegated side are in 5th, AFC Fylde as a relegated side are in 7th, and that's only good for the division. You know, not having a super strong obvious team that looks like they're going to win is a positive thing. And all we want is competitive football, and Fylde kind of getting off the mark with their win is good. You're going to show the league table shortly, but it's super interesting. I know we're only 4 games in.
Well, there you go. Look at that.
I know we're only 4 games in. But we're a couple of results away from everything looking very different. 1st and 5th separated by 1 result, and that is really interesting. You've got likewise 7th and the bottom of the table separated by 1 result. So the top half of the table could be totally different come the end of the weekend. The bottom half of the table could also be totally different come 5 o'clock on Sunday, and that's exactly the kind of league that we want to follow. Like I say, it's only 4 games in, but we're not far away from the 25% mark. And yeah, it's been interesting to follow. There's been some shock results. There's been some real statements made, and long may it continue.
Absolutely, you're not kidding. Some notes I got from that was Durham Sestria. Obviously, with that defeat, were not able to maintain pace with Middlesbrough, so dropped down to 4th. They were top of the league. But I think the 2 big interesting ones there, as you say, Fylde that win. They were in the relegation zone. That's put them up into 7th. And of course, York there. We mentioned about how their top goal scorer is the top goal scorer of the entire division. Well, they were bottom of the table, but that win has taken them straight out of it. And this is the first division I've seen where every team has a point at least. So that is quite an interesting little tidbit for you just there. Well, where are we going to go now? Are we going to John? Are we going to Barry? Of course we're going to John. I told you we're going from the north to the south. So, John, you've gone for the West Midlands Regional Women's Football League, which is Tier 5, of course. So, same question for you again. Obviously, we looked a little bit at Kidderminster last week, but you're telling me that today we're not looking at Kidderminster, we're looking at Leek Town. Is that correct?
Well, I can't lie, Barry. It's a very emotional occasion, to be honest. Obviously, if you're involved.
I'm just going to take a moment to say how emotional could it be, and it'd be nice if somebody could just have a word with the people that fill in full time, because you can see there for the Agborough attendance, we don't know who was there. So I've just put John. I assume
there were so many there that we couldn't count them all, Barry. That's what it was. I would predict between about 250 and 300.
That's quite good.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I think there was about 200 or 250 tickets sold, but there seemed a lot more there. So maybe a few more was bought on the day, which potentially I'm not too sure. But yeah, it was an emotional day because for those who are involved with Kidderminster Harriers or the new manager Andy Fisher who joined there this summer. It was a very nice experience. His first home game was at the main stadium, Agbara, and he had several hundred people behind him. Well, I say a couple of hundred people behind him, literally behind him, cheering him on. And he did a little stare, and he was still his vocal self on the sideline, next to his right hand man Harry O'Neill as his head coach, and they've done really well. They needed a response after the loss last week against Shifnal Town. Leek came into this game with a win against Knoll, so Leek would have thought, oh, hang about, maybe Kidderminster here are there for the taking. But literally within 2 minutes, Kidderminster Harriers opened the scoring, and they never looked back. And as well as Leek tried, they did come close to making a game of it, unfortunately. I say unfortunately for them and the neutral. For Kidderminster Harriers, it was a pleasure to watch. We talk about fans coming back. I guarantee they'll see that game, Kidderminster Harriers fans, and they will come back and see what this new era of Kidderminster is all about. Eloise Harris scored. Like I said, that you've got them all on there already. Alex Nickley was fantastic. I think Andy Fisher in his post-match says she was rolling back the years there, or Alex Nickley of old. She won Tier 5 and Tier 4 with Andy Fisher as a previous club. Mia Badland was a very different type of striker, so a lot of balls went over the top for her to run onto. Fantastic goal scorer. She played really well for Kidderminster Harriers in pre-season. But arguably my favourite goal was Molly May Summers in the second half. Came on as a second half sub, and you're one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Do you try and go around the goalkeeper? Do you try and tap it in? Do you blast it? No, she decides to just chip it over the goalkeeper. Probably the most awkwardest technique that you could do, and she scored it and made it look easy. Lots of players to shout out on that day. I thought Izzy Whittick was fantastic as a wide fullback, overlapping, getting forward in those wide areas and putting crosses in as well. But I think that the main thing for me is that the players were listening to the coaches throughout the last few weeks, really. It all came together in this game. Midfielders bombing forward to get on the end of those types of crosses, and they weren't outnumbered in the box because plenty of players were getting forward. And once 1 or 2 goals go in, of course, more players wanted to get on score sheet as well. So fantastic to watch. And all of a sudden there, if the result last week where they lost raised a few eyebrows. Hopefully those same eyebrows will be raised again this weekend.
Absolutely. Now, am I right in saying that as well as doing the social media there for Kidderminster, you were also doing a little bit of commentary?
Yeah, I was. So I mentioned on the first show, Switch Sport Radio, they go from club to club every Sunday and weekdays as well if there's a midweek game. Predominantly around the Birmingham area, so Bournemouth, Sutton Coldfield, Solihull Moors. Those are your main ones, but I do come across to the Black Country and Kidderminster and Worcester way as well. And I was fortunate enough to be on commentary on that game, and it was great to see because obviously I was sitting at the back, so I could see all the crowd in front of me. And there was a lot of buzz around the place, and it was what Kidderminster Harriers deserved. They wanted a bit of a show for their first home game of the season. Lots of mascots there, lots of flags being waved, and a lot of noise as well, a lot of noise. And it's what Andy Fisher was used to at his previous club, and he's brought that with him to his new club as well.
Georgina Ashton there with a yellow card right at the end. Was it a yellow? What happened?
I can't remember, but I can't remember. So I can't really comment, so I don't really know. I'll have to look at it back.
He went to sleep at 90 minutes, you see. He wasn't doing the rest of the commentary.
I think I was probably too busy celebrating, if I'm honest.
Outrageous. So it's not neutral, that commentary. But what we can see here is a 2-game season so far. So not a huge way through the West Midlands Regional Women's Football League. But Lytown and Shifnal Town are the only two with 100% record, as they have made themselves first and second of the league. Camden Court have dropped with that draw into third. Kidderminster bounce all the way up to fourth, having been in 11th after the first game and have levelled out their goal difference. Meanwhile, Knoll are bottom, and Solihull Sporting obviously only played the one game so far along with Port Vale. Their game didn't take place. and as a result, Solihull remain propping up the rest of the West Midlands Regional League. So obviously that leaves us to one more, and that was me. I had to choose this one. I was, again, searching through, having a little look to see what stories I could find, what was shouting out at me with my sort of journalistic and Sherlock Holmes type demeanor that I sometimes try and approach this with. And for me, it was this, because I looked at it and I thought, blimey, that was a result and half, that 9-1. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 second that Ashworth United were going to be necessarily a top team here, but we focused on Fulham on the first week because they played at Craven Cottage and they'd have over about 1,500 people turn up. Now, you can see here already that the Fulham are playing at their training ground for a start. So they're in one place. It's a clear club strategy that's going on here. They're not borrowing somebody else's ground in order for them to be able to play. It's something that is owned by Fulham FC. Only 100 people there to watch on that one. So that's fairly usual for Tier 5, which is what this would be as well. But as you can see, what a first half this is. I mean, if you're Ashford United, goodness me, you must be looking at that result at the half time. They must have been shell shocked going on. Sophie Manzi, who, by the way, is the top goal scorer, not just for Fulham, but for the league. A lot of that would have happened there. She's on 8 goals already this season, and she just scored 5 of them here. They played 4 games, so that should give you an idea. She also scored in the first game that we highlighted. But she scored in the 2nd minute, the 6th minute, they're 2-0 up. 18 minutes, Isabel Taylor Makepeace gets it 3-0. Ella Tagliavini, 4-0, 25 minutes gone. Even at that point, you might be a bit shell-shocked. You wouldn't have been expecting Sophie Manzi to then get a 5-minute hat-trick from 41, 43, and 45 plus 5. So at that point, you're already looking at it, and I'm presuming 7-0 down. I don't know when Rachel Stevens scored, but fun fact, whilst I was writing these up, and I'm genuinely not making this up, lads, the minute I wrote down Rachel Stevens, S Club 7 came onto my music, would bring it all back. That genuinely happened. I'm like, oh, you can't write it. It's amazing when that happens. So there you go. They probably would like to bring it all back, but they wouldn't want to do it again, I don't think, because 9-1 is a hell of a result there. And as you can see, Georgia Heisman also scoring as well. So just a crazy amount of goals going into there. And again, the reason why I said that this would be one to bring up and start looking at in terms of a story is we can see that Fulham are really starting to invest in the club. And if that's the case, they're going to start to invest. I actually put it in the title of the show today. Are Fulham the next Newcastle? Are we going to be expecting to see Fulham go here from Tier 5 down in the south into the WNL, which you would assume would be the Southeast Division, then up? It'd be amazing if they made it into the Southwest. What a thing that would be. Has to be the Southeast, surely. They get themselves all the way up to there, possibly then into the Southern Premier. Like, it's really possible, I think, if they're going to invest and put the money in. Now, there are teams, obviously, that are keeping pace with them, as you can see here on the league. Dorking Wanderers also on 9 points. Barking also on 9 points. Laura Bunton is the second top goal scorer in the league there. She's a great striker. We've seen her when they were in the Eastern Region League, and very good players there for Barking as well. And nice to see that Barking have recovered from the defeat that Fulham gave them on the opening day that we spoke about as well. But you can see that even though they have recovered in terms of points, they still haven't recovered in terms of goal difference, because they're still -1. Despite the fact they won their last 3 games since then. So clearly close wins there for Barking. But 3 teams there, all 3 of them are going to be vying 100% to get out of this league. And it looks like the top of it is going to be incredibly tight. Fulham have got the game in hand. Obviously only played 3 games compared to the other 2 with 4. And of course could start to pull away with it if they were to win that. But some big things going on there. Also, some big disparity. Episode4 have only played 1 game, so they've still got 100% record because they've only played 1 and won 1. So anything could happen with them. They could also join the running of the top three, but also looking at the bottom four. There's two teams to be relegated here. Hayward Heath not looking like they're having the best of times, and it's rare that you see an exact opposite after 3 or 4 games, where the top of the league's got a whole 21 goal difference and the bottom of the league's got a negative 21 goal difference. They're exactly mirroring each other's routes through the league table. But even Millwall Lionesses, they're looking like they could potentially drop down as well. So a really big thing. Oh, go on, go. Who's shouting at me?
So yeah, no, me. What I was going to kind of highlight here is that looking at this league, there's no club other than Fulham that really strikes you as being able to, if they wanted to, switch on all engines. Millwall, are they affiliated with the EFL club Millwall?
I would imagine, with the fact that they've used Lionesses, that they probably haven't been. But
so, in which case, you're looking at Fulham as being the only club there really that can probably go, actually, we are going to throw money at this. We do want to have a National League or a Championship club in 5 years. Let's go for it. So I think, when you look at, unless Sport London, Benfica, they decide that they want to throw money and have that club in the Championship. But yeah, that's kind of what really stands out to me there is, you look at other leagues and there might be 1 or 2 teams that could affiliate and really make a go for it, or none at all sometimes. But here, yeah, there's one big club there and they could really push if they wanted to, which I simultaneously like and don't like. I think that it's important that I like competition, and what I don't want to see is a WSL that's all made up of Premier League teams, women's clubs, a Championship that's all made up of the rest, and then I don't really want to see the women's pyramid essentially be a mirror of the men's game. I like seeing the likes of London City Lionesses or Durham in the Championship, and I think that those kinds of clubs are important for the game.
I think you're right.
I like seeing it.
Isn't it? They're going to put the money in, and because they've got it there and it's available. So Millwall are affiliated. I have just double checked there because they've got the same badge. So there is a bit of a thing there, surely, that they, like you said, they can put the money in, and if they choose to, there's not a lot that the others can do. Dorking Wanderers have got Callum Best, who's invested in them as well. So, and obviously they've got a lot going on the YouTube channel here, haven't they? So there's a lot happening there in terms of what those 3 are doing. But yeah, other than that, like you say, they put the money in. What can others do?
And I like seeing clubs where the team that's highest up in the pyramid is the women's team. We saw it with Coventry United before they became Rugby Borough. They were significantly further up the pyramid than their men's team was. We saw it with Lewis. They were a Championship club. Still, actually, they're in the 3rd tier. They're a National League side. And I think we are moving to a time where that's going to be less likely. The popularity of the game has encouraged those bigger clubs to put the money in, which is part and parcel of the game. And, you can't pick and choose where you want there to be money in the game. But I would like it if, those kinds of clubs who don't have the financial backing of a Premier League or Championship side can still be competitive in the game.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And with that, we have reached the end of the slideshow. Welcome to my TED Talk. But we do have, that's a brilliant comment. Rachel Stevens must have scored in the 7th minute. We'll never know unless they write in on full time, which is up to them. Club secretaries do that. Some of them do, some of them don't. If they do, it makes our life a lot easier in terms of trying to get the information out to you guys. Sometimes they just put it on Twitter and you have to go hunting even further. Honestly, it's like one of those games that you download off of your app store and you've got bits and pieces to do, trying to find these little clues and hope that they all fit together correctly. without ending up looking like an idiot. Like the one time when I thought that Stevenage were going to play Watford and they'd only just gone up into the Championship. Like, oh my God, that's amazing. What a game this is going to be. So I go up to the manager, like, that's amazing, isn't it? We're going to be playing this team for the Championship. Like, it's not them, it's Watford Ladies Development, or they're in Tier 6. Well, thank you very much. Cheers. Who was telling me that? So it's very easy to get yourself confused. That's that from there. But we've got our one to watch for now. And I think I'm going to go first this time, because I haven't gone first once on anything, because I always let the Northerners go first. But I've chosen, unsurprisingly, because anyone who's been watching this for the last 4 episodes will know that I'm starting to get a little bit of a thing for the southwest of England. I've chosen, there's lots of cup games going on, lots of preliminary cup matches happening all the way around the WNL. But there's one or two teams, obviously, because that's how you get a football match, 2 teams that are not playing in the cup. They are going to be playing in the league, and they are Swindon and Maidenhead. That doesn't seem like the world's biggest game. It's not Real Madrid, it's not Barcelona, it's none of that. But this is interesting because AFC Bournemouth are obviously top of the league at the moment. They've been doing incredibly well. But Swindon win it, they will go top. So although Bournemouth will be fighting through the cup and hoping that they're going to make it through there, I picked this one because actually Swindon could get the points on the board. And I think if you ask any football manager, player, whatever, they would always rather have the points on the board than the games in hand. So if Swindon can beat Maidenhead, they'll be 3 points clear of Bournemouth, and it just puts that tiny bit of pressure onto those teams below. And Maidenhead are 9th in the league. So there is a real opportunity there for Swindon. And full transparency alert, I was born in Swindon, so I would actually quite like to see that. So that would be quite nice. I didn't pick it because I was born there, but that was just a nice little side comment. And Mayo Menke's loving that. Southwest, gotta love it. It's a great place. Cornwall's amazing. So that was me. John, I think we'll let you go next. What's your match to watch out for this week?
I always love this part of the show because I've got a feeling that I might sometimes pick the same one that Gareth might pick. So I'm not going to go for the obvious one. So I'm going to go for the second obvious one, just in case. Just in case Gareth clocked the big Tier 3.
Imagine Gareth done the same
the big Tier 3 fixture. I'm going to go for one in Tier 4. Peterborough against Sutton Coldfield. So Peterborough was my pick to win the league this year. Loughborough have started really well, as I thought they would, but they do seem to be flying. Both equal on points, maximum points so far. Sutton Coldfield are 5th. I think it's great statement of intent if Sutton can get something from this game. They're a bit like hot and cold at the moment, so they're winning some good teams like Calcer in the cup, but obviously they're not still quite in full flow. So I think there's more to come from Sutton Coldfield, and I think they can really lay a marker there, and if they can get something here from Peterborough. But I do think maybe Peterborough is going to be a little bit too strong, but it's certainly a game that I'm going to be looking out for.
Hot and Coldfield, if you like, John.
What's that, sorry?
Said hot and cold field, if you like.
I see what you've done there, Gareth.
Very good. Have you got an equally good pun for your one, or have you peaked early?
I think I've peaked. I think I am going for the obvious one, because after this game, if a certain results happens, we could end up with the top 4 sides in the Northern Premier League with the exact same record. So that game is Nottingham Forest against Burnley at the City Ground. So yeah, if Burnley get a result there, they lost against Wolves last week. But if Burnley get a result there, then we will have Forest, Burnley, Rugby Borough, and Wolves potentially all on played 5, won 4, lost 1. Which is a super interesting way of looking at it, and would really show that actually what we've said these last few weeks is that division is too close to call. If Forest can come through it and Forest can get a win and eke out that gap further over what I think are the 2 best sides in that league, then that makes a real statement for their title challenge early doors. I say early doors, about a quarter of the way through the season.
Very good. I'm going to put this up there. Can you work out which team Mayo Monkey thinks Katy Perry might play for?
It's related to my pun, surely. Hot and cold, Katy Perry.
That's
Related
right,
to hot and cold.
Field. Very good. So there we go. Imagine that, Katy Perry up front. That would be amazing. Just listen to the people roar. There we go. We can all do this. We can all do this. Excellent stuff.
John hasn't got a clue. John's like, what? Who's Katy Perry? What's going on?
John hasn't listened to music in the last 3 years. All he's been interested in is football. So he's not bothered. Unless it's Anthony Johnson, he's not fast. So there we go. Well, listen, it's been a longer one, but we've been live, so I'm a lot less fussed about it whilst we're live. Lovely to see one or two of you joining us in the comments today. That's been superb. We'll still be back next Wednesday, whether it's pre-recorded or live at 7 p.m, as always. And we love to do it. So get yourself on here next week and make sure you are listening in to find out all of the things that we want to highlight to you based on what we think has been really exciting over the weekend. And you know what? It doesn't have to be just us. If you're going in and you're seeing something and you think it's really good, stick it in the comments. Tell us where we're going. Are we watching the right things? Is there a match that you think we should have pulled out better? Or what about this match? Why haven't you mentioned that? Throw it in. It might just make John talk about somebody different. We'll see you next week.